It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech. A great panel, Merlin, Mann, Harry McCracken, Dwight, Silverman, and a surprise visit from Steve Wozniak. It's all ahead with TWiT.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Audio bandwidth for This Week in Tech is provided by the new Winamp for Android, featuring wireless sync and one-click iTunes import. Now with free daily music downloads and full-length CD listening parties. Download it for free at winamp.com/Android. Video bandwidth for TWiT is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 316, recorded August 28th, 2011. Putting wood behind the arrow. This Week in Tech is brought to you by GoToMeeting, now with high-definition group video conferencing. For your free 30-day trial, visit GoToMeeting.com and use the offer code TWiT. And by Audible.com. Sign up for the Platinum Plan and get 2 free books. Go to audible.com/TWiT2. And don't forget to follow Audible on Twitter. User ID audible_com. It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech, the show that covers the tech news of the week gone by and looks ahead to the week ahead. And I am just thrilled. We've been able to get people in studio for almost every show since we moved to the Brick House studio. But there's one guy that I always wanted, that one guy I could not get for the longest time. Mr. Merlin Mann is in here in studio with us.
Hi, Leo.
Mr.43folders.com, merlinmann.com, and his great show on the 5x5 network with Dan Benjamin, Back to Work. Productivity, communication, work barriers, constraints, tools, and more. Is there anything you left out?
Yeah.
Anime. There's no anime in that show.
Oh, yeah. We have a whole manga. Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, we have manga corner.
Manga corner.
Yeah.
5x5.
Thank you for having me. For those who haven't been here, it's extraordinary in here. It's a lot like the Captain Nemo ride.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a thrill ride. Well, we're really glad to have you back, Merlin Mann. Very nice to see you. Haven't seen you in ages. He brought his wife and kid, and they ran off. But
so annoying.
It was nice to meet Eleanor. She's 4 years old.
Yeah, she's like 6 feet tall.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Giant kid.
You thinking beach volleyball or basketball?
Can't decide. That's her decision. I don't want to push her either.
I don't blame you.
You know, she's a florist, whatever direction she wants to go. Basketball, I'm good. Giant, big head.
Also here, really glad to have him up here for the first time, Mr. Harry McCracken from the Technologizer blog. Great to see you, Harry.
It's nice to be here in person.
We've ever had you in person.
Never. If I knew you were so close to Copperfields, I would have come down.
You like the bookstore?
I love that place.
We have a great independent bookstore. Still, one of the last places in the world, I think, with an independent bookstore. And also, unfortunately, we haven't got Dwight to come up from Houston. Maybe someday soon. Dwight Silverman of the Houston Chronicle. blog.cron.com/techblog. Hey, Dwight!
Hey, Leo, how are you doing?
Very
it's
well.
hot here. It's really hot here.
It's muggy, I bet. I bet you, though.
No, it's not too muggy, but I'll tell you something. I'm going to show you something that's kind of amazing.
Whoa, no, that's not real.
Yep, that is real.
Wow.
That's now.
Those look that
109
number looks as
degrees.
fake as the TMZ picture of Steve Jobs. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I think you're
this is not
photoshopping it.
Photoshop. It's the second day in a row it's been 109 here.
Horrible.
It is.
Horrible. Well, I bet you're glad, though, that you're not getting the hurricane. Usually Houston is the hurricane central.
We've been having a drought on top of this. It hasn't rained in forever, and so I would take a little minor hurricane like Irene turned out to be.
Yeah. Thank goodness, by the way. It was a little
yes.
scary. It really was. So we're glad all of our friends and listeners on the East Coast have, I presume, survived. Dick D. Bartolo did a funny thing. He put a drop cam on his boat so that he could watch to see whether it was, I don't know, what was he going to do if it started sinking? He said he would run down the 3 blocks and tie it up better or something if it started sinking. But then he decided he wanted to do a show. This is how far people will go to do a show. The camera was inside the cabin of the boat looking out the window so you'd hear the rain on the roof and see the water coming down. It was actually really cool. So he started calling his answering machine on the boat, and he knew that it would play back, so he would do like 2-minute monologues into the drop cam by calling his answering machine on the boat.
Like I said, that sounds to me like an excuse to buy new equipment.
No, I think it's.
I think a boat cam is a call
Boat
for help.
cam.
That means you just want to like get in the Prius and go to the radio shack.
It's pretty funny, I have to say.
Where was the boat?
It was in the. I want to say I can't remember which marina. It's in New York City.
New York City.
It was on the Hudson, I think.
Wow.
I think it's on the Hudson. Yeah, 79th Street. That's right. Thank you very much. On the Hudson, the 79th Street Boat Basin. See,
The Hudson overflowed its banks,
It
didn't it?
did. It came up on Riverside Drive. Yeah.
So what happened to his boat? Did his boat
I think it was
stay,
fine. I think it was fine. Right, everybody in the chat room? Yeah, I think it. You know, the only risk is that it would. This has happened. He said this happened before. Was that the river rises high enough that it's above the pylons of the pier,
Right.
And then the boat can
Right.
come back down on the pylons and poke a hole in it. What's the chat room? What's the link to Dick's drop can? We'll see if we can see his boat, and then we'll get to actually the news. Dropcam.com. Thank you, Myra Joyce. So let's see if we can see Dick DiBartolo's boat on the drop cam. I know, this is excitement, isn't it?
You know, the main reason I came here is because my family had to go to the outlet mall. I don't know if your viewers are familiar with the true fame of Petaluma, the outlet malls.
It's actually why people come to Petaluma.
It's true. They got a big placard out there. It's literally. Anyway, we went to the outlet mall. There's a hurricane simulator. You can stand for $2. You can stand in a big tube, and it blows you.
Are you kidding?
Really hard. Yep. 75 miles an hour. Boom.
Here?
$2 out the door. Yeah. The nice one. The one with the gout.
They used to.
I bought pants.
They used to do that. Radio station promotions. They put you in a booth and they'd put money in there.
Oh,
and
sure.
then they'd blow it, and then whatever you could grab, that's what you get.
I always
to
wish it
keep.
would be silver dollars. That'd be more fun. You make them earn it. Really earn it. I'm serious. Like one of those Neil Young type level of fans. Like really coming at
And
you.
ladies and gentlemen, there it is. There's Dick's. Why was I not getting it? But yeah. So there's Dick's boat, and looks fine.
Looks peaceful.
Yeah. So
It's better than a lot of what I've seen on PBS. That's
for those of
pretty
you
good.
making book, 32 seconds into the show, and already we've got a. Thank you very much, Merlin Mann. It wouldn't be Merlin Mann without a rat hole.
I've gotten so much better.
You lie.
I have. I'm lying.
Steve Jobs retires this week. That's really the big story. This was a month of amazing stories. Motorola, Google, HP getting out of the PC business, and now one of the true pioneers, the legend, probably arguably the single most important person in the personal computer business and the technology business, the Henry Ford of PCs, announces his retirement. And it does it in a kind of a sad way with a letter to the board of directors saying, I always said that if I couldn't do my job, I'm paraphrasing here, I would be the first to say so and step down, and that time has come. Which I have to say, knowing how sick Steve has been, really implies that the end is nigh, I guess. I hate to be a morbid person. Dwight, what was your take on all of this?
You know, when I first heard it, my initial thought was what you thought, that well, we're writing this now, and we may end up doing an obit soon. But to a certain extent, I don't think so. And I liked what John Dvorak said about the timing of it, that it may have had as much to do with Tim Cook as it did with Steve Jobs.
Tim Cook
and
is
trying
the
to-
COO of Apple, who Steve
Who's now the CEO.
nominated to take
Right.
his place. Yeah.
Right, and that Dvorak said that that you can't pen an interim CEO title on somebody forever. Except didn't Steve Jobs have interim CEO forever?
He was the ICEO.
Yeah. Right. And so they didn't want to lose Tim Cook. And so they wound up essentially pushing this forward. You know, Steve does remain as chairman, and he does remain as an Apple employee. And both the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal said that he will continue to have a hand in product development. So, you know, that certainly makes a lot of sense. And Steve probably isn't well. That's probably still taking a lot of his time. So put all those together, and I think it kind of makes sense that it may not be as morbid as we all initially thought.
Harry, does that scenario make sense?
Well, I mean, if he wanted to do it at the best possible time, it made a lot of sense because Apple is at its absolute high point now.
It couldn't be at a higher peak.
And over the last
Well,
2.5
actually, I guess it
years, I mean, Jobs has been on medical leave for about half of the last 2.5 years. You know, he's certainly contributed, but on the other hand, with him less deeply involved, they not only have done okay, they've flourished. And so my hope would be that he did it because the timing felt right, rather than because he had no other option.
Yeah. Merlin, your thoughts on all this?
I wouldn't want to speak to anything about the health part because I don't really
We
know.
don't know.
You don't know.
What we know is he resigned from a position. So it's hard to know how much he'll be involved. But I would have to guess that rather than assuming that it's telegraphing something either about his health or the company, I would just say he doesn't want to be a distraction, or he doesn't want speculation about his health to be a distraction or any of that stuff. And it's clear enough that even during a slow news month, that is the story.
It's still a distraction.
Yeah, well, it's not, that's not surprising necessarily, but it just strikes me that he's a man who's very careful with words inside of a company that is very aware of how important, I don't want to say the look of things, but, you know,
No, I think
think
that's
it's nice
appropriate.
to do it in the way that he wants. And I think he should be allowed to pick his shot, and if it's the time, it's the time. The culture of that company, though, is so, gosh, is there anybody more associated with a brand?
Tim Cook says Apple's not going to change, I think, to reassure the rank and file, the company itself. But I have to say Apple, there's no way Apple doesn't change.
Well, Apple, that's the point. That's what makes Apple Apple, is they're always changing. What doesn't change, though, is, in my opinion, is that they have such a, what's the word? They seem to, something Gruber said a while back on Daring Fireball, is that where most companies seem scared of not replicating their success, they're a company that is much more concerned with not doing something new and trying something different. And I think that culture is such a part of the company. I don't know. I think it will change a lot. It's just think about how the company's changed in like the last 5 years. I bought a Norwegian black metal album on my phone at 9. Well, my point being, if you wanted to buy a Norwegian black metal album, I believe it might have been Mayhem, I think. If you wanted to buy that like a few years ago, you would have had to go to like some really squirrely record store outside of town. It's not,
which might have been part of the fun, let's face it.
Sure, like when I was back in Florida, we would always have to go to Tampa to go to Vinyl Fever to get these records. But my point being, like, it's changed. We're still kind of treating these like computer stories, and the whole market has changed so much. The whole landscape has changed. And
due in good part to Steve Jobs and iTunes.
And a lot of people say due to Tim Cook, too, you know, in some ways, that ability to run operations. Anyway, I don't know what it means. I try not to read too much into it because I'm bummed, because I like what the guy's done, and he's been really inspirational to me in terms of the way he approaches business. So I feel bad for the guy. It's hard to know that somebody powerful is moving closer toward a position where they have less power. I think that's always feels a little tragic.
Yeah. Well, I totally feel bad for the guy, and but I do think that I just don't see Steve relinquishing the reins unless he absolutely had to. I don't see him doing it because Tim Cook is going to leave, or because Tim Cook is tired of being the CEO. I don't see him doing it because it's the right time for the product cycle or the stock market. This is Steve Jobs' life is Apple Computer. You know, when he was wandering in the wilderness, when he was at Next and Pixar, he still, I know because I spent a little time with him, never stopped thinking about Apple Computer. It was first, last, and always on his mind. For him, I can only imagine how difficult this must be. And I think that if you read between the lines in the letter that he wrote, it really feels elegiac. How would you pronounce that? Elegiac.
She might not be that soft, but that's how I roll.
It feels like a very poignant farewell, and I don't think Steve Jobs has never been the kind of guy that would soft pedal anything or do anything, you know, to be nice. He's the kind of guy who would say, "No, I'm staying here until I absolutely cannot." And I think the fact that he took 2 medical leaves of absence and came back again and again, despite obviously grave illnesses, shows that. Nevertheless, I think what really you got to do is just say, this guy, Doc Searles called him the Beethoven of technology. This guy was Da Vinci. This guy was Henry Ford. This guy was so important to the thing that we care a lot about, which is technology, that you've got to mark the transition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't question that it would change. I'm sorry. I don't question that things are going to change. I think the interesting question would be, how will it change and when? Because they seem like they've been pretty good at not reacting to the market, but really they one of the things I think drives people crazy about Apple is how adamant they are about defining their own market. And somebody starts chasing their tail and they change tails in some cases. I think what's interesting about it, though, is that I think the guy, I agree with you. I think he cares so much about his company, though, that he would never want the story to become more about him than benefits the companies.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think what really happened is he finally, he was diagnosed with a fatal illness 5 years ago, so almost 6 years ago. They said, you have 6 months to live. I think he held on, and through what must have been uncalculable pain and suffering, got the iPad out the door, got the retail on track, iPhone, and I think that his last public appearance was 2 months ago in front of the Cupertino City Council, asking them permission to build this amazing space flying saucer in Cupertino. I think those pieces were the pieces he wanted to put in place as his legacy. I think he says with the iPad, I did it. I finally got the computer that Apple was created to build. The computer for the rest of us. I got it out into people's hands. And I think that in a way, that's what really happened, was that Steve got to the point that he could say, I've done it.
Well, Leo, I wouldn't discount the fact that he is, he's still the chairman and he still is an Apple employee. When you're a CEO, you have all kinds of things that you need to do and that you need to pay attention to in terms of fiduciary duties and corporate duties. And he can toss those aside and focus on the thing he does best, which is product.
I hope that's the case.
He said
God, we pray that's the case, right?
He said, I can't be CEO anymore, which is not the same thing as saying I can't work for Apple anymore.
Right. And so if this frees him up to be more Steve Jobs, the caveat to that is,
I hope that's true, boy.
Merlin mentioned the Gruber piece. Gruber talked about that Steve Jobs' best product was Apple itself.
Yes.
And hopefully that will continue, in its current vision for a long time. But I think he's still free to kind of play in the space, maybe even be more free to play in the product development space, and we may see even more things that have his hand on them.
I pray that that's true. I just can't see. I'm looking at the executive chart now. The people in charge post Steve Jobs, Tim Cook. I just don't see here the creativity, the talent. Or maybe we just don't know them yet. Scott Forstall. Johnny Ive. There's a guy, but again, this was very much under. Now, I don't know why Ron Johnson's still on that org chart, because he works for J.C. Penney's now.
Not yet. He's leaving in November.
Okay, so he's technically still there.
He's still hanging on.
He's running the retail operation. Bob Mansfield. We saw a lot of Bob Mansfield with the iPhone, most recent iPhone.
We don't know most of these people all that well. I think
Phil Schiller's the one we know best.
We know Phil. Tim Cook, we don't know that he doesn't have what it takes to provide some of the vision. We just know that he's a really good operations guy.
We saw him speak a couple of times.
Well, he's
not inspiring.
He's not electrifying, but but nobody else is electrifying like Steve Jobs. So.
But that's really my point. You don't replace a Steve Jobs. You cannot replace a Steve Jobs. And anymore, you can replace a Michelangelo. I mean, this guy is a once-in-a-century type of person.
Absolutely. But
more so than Bill Gates.
There was an interesting thing in that, I think this came up, I don't think I have access to the full article, in that Fortune story about the hiring of, I'm sure I'll mispronounce his name, Joel Podolny, who was at the Yale Business School, your alma mater. They hired this guy from this big business school to come in. At the time, everybody thought it was going to be to come into Apple and work on, theoretically, something like iTunes University. But it turned out that the reason he was there was to work on a problem that a lot of companies struggle with, which is taking all the institutional wisdom and, you know what I mean, all the information that's floating around that hasn't been put anywhere, and figure out how to institutionalize that and put it somewhere where it can be shared. That's more than like a wiki. And I think
we got a wiki.
I think the really one of the interesting things to watch.
What our wiki's for.
I was on your wiki. I learned a lot about
That's
this.
what our wiki's for.
All kinds of stuff. I think one of the interesting things to watch is going to be. Well, I mean, first of all, you met people from Apple. I mean, they don't have to have Steve standing over their shoulder to understand the man's taste.
And certainly his DNA has been communicated thoroughly.
So. I think it's super interesting to see. This isn't just about Apple, but companies in general. I mean, gosh. Everybody could go to one of the pages with all those faces on it and all those bios and wonder, gosh, will it be okay with or without these people? Well, the strength of a lot of these companies is in the rank and file and in the director level people. And it's those people at the top are certainly important. But I think what makes some of these companies so great is that down to the person, like I was at Pixar a few weeks ago, and like every single person in that building feels imbued
Yes.
with the spirit of trying to make something truly great.
And Steve really hasn't been there in a long time.
Right. I mean, obviously, the Steve Company too, I wasn't thinking of it that way, but like, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's not that many places you can go where you will see that level of engagement with making something unforgettable. So I just think that's a super interesting idea for companies in general, though. I wonder how many companies have taken that much time to try and turn what is currently a good idea with lots of wizards into something that they can share for 10 years down the road.
Package.
Yeah.
You did a great job, Harry, of looking at the first time Steve Jobs stepped down. And it's funny, it just shows you that even in 1985, this is on the Technologizer blog, InfoWorld says, can Apple hold together 26 years ago, or
And
16 years ago?
Yeah, and a lot of the
26.
A lot of the experts thought that Apple would be just fine then. I mean, some said it was a good move to get rid of Steve Jobs because he was trouble. Their TR Reid-
Employees in the field away from this is a great quote from the InfoWorld article. Employees in the field away from the daily news reports that dwell on the dark specter of layoffs seem ebullient. Quote, at last we have someone who's watching the bottom line, says a nearly 5-year Apple veteran about the rise of John Scully. He's brought accountability to an organization which has been lacking for 5 years. I think Apple's making the transition from one phase of its life to the next. I don't know that the image of a leader clad in a bow tie, jeans, and suspenders could help us survive in the coming years. Well, they were wrong. It turned out he was the only guy who could help Apple survive. 10 years later, of course, Jobs returned to save that company. And that's something else we can't forget, is that Apple, without Steve Jobs, really almost went under.
They were
But
within
Apple
weeks of going under.
also at the time was not, with Steve Jobs, then was not at its healthiest.
Right.
We have a special guest online. I believe Steve Wozniak is on the line right now.
Was.
Hi, good. I think I'm talking to you. I don't think it's video.
Yeah, I asked him to send video, but
that's fine. It's just great to talk to you, Steve.
Yeah.
I know
Good
you've been.
to talk to you, Leo, of course. Ever since those early days at Tech TV and
Woz is a longtime friend, and someday I hope you'll come up and see our new digs up here, Steve. And I know you've had a crazy week. I saw you on CNN. I know you drove down for that, and you've been running all over the place. So I'm very glad you could come on. And I imagine, I don't want to. You were very upbeat on Piers Morgan, but I imagine that this is. You must feel a little bit like it's the end of an era.
Well, it is like the end of an era, and that's partly, why I'm upbeat. I mean, it's like a lot of things. I'm a pretty quiet guy, and I don't let out a lot of personal feelings, and even directly to people, when they matter. I just am that way, and it's like, this was an important time to make sure that, I haven't felt like I wanted my own feelings to get hurt. And, that the world, recognized Steve in the right ways, and I've always felt that way way about him. I don't know. It's kind of neat. We go back and we think about. I watch Steve on some of the interviews he does, and even things like D7 with Bill Gates, and he really talks fondly, even on the phone with me, about those early days. So I know that in the last year or so, it had really started getting to him those fun memories. When we were kids doing kid things. And, another thing that really strikes me, it doesn't get brought up a lot, but it was when they did that D7 interview and Bill Gates said he just wished he had that thing that Steve has. Yeah. And it's the visionary thing of being able to realize what the future is. And last time I spoke to Steve, he said, well, I'm not very technical. I halted him on that one right away. And I said, first of all, what's most important is knowing what people really want and what they will appreciate and like. That's what leads to knowing how to make the good products. And, Steve got silent right away. I don't know if he was going to put me down or put me up or something. I think he read somewhere something saying I might want to return to Apple, which every once in a while that comes up. So I denied it right away to relieve him. But I don't know what his call was about. But anyway, it's like he knows how to tell who's BSing and who's really got strong, especially when it comes from technical people and engineers. Which one knows what they're doing? Which one is on a track that could lead to a leapfrog, a jump in technology? And which ones are just, kind of using a bunch of words, but, that are going around the tech industry, but they really don't know how to make an advance. And he was always good at telling that difference. So I think those were a lot of the things that were important factors in his making great products. And, every time I ever spoke to him over the years, every time it came out that the products had to be great, and I would talk about things to him like how a lot of what Apple has is this huge following community. Apple introduces a product, 1 million people buy it right away.
Right.
All of a sudden, the world has a direction rather than a whole bunch of competing companies. Kind of like you have a standard when Apple comes out with a new product. And Steve wanted to deny that right away. He just wanted to put it in the focus of when you make great products.
I remember you talking about how every time you'd invent something, whether it's a blue box or the Apple I or the Apple II, Steve would say, I think we can make a business out of this.
Well, he was, yeah, I mean, that's how he started. That story's pretty well known now. He was more the businessman and marketing. He always had a clue to sales, and he wanted to start companies. And the Apple II was actually the 6th time that I designed something for myself, except for Breakout. Steve came to me with the idea from Atari for doing Breakout.
Right.
Every other one I just did on my own for myself, no thinking about ever having a sale or a product, and Steve wanted to do that. So
you need that kind of team.
It was so fun. It was so fun because I'd be sitting there in my house building all these great things, and he'd come by and see it, and he'd usually go up to Oregon and then come back after a few months, and he just loved seeing it. He always had ideas of where it could go, but he was always like 10 years ahead of me, saying, could you put a disc on this? And I would just say, yes, 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 because I know you can always put something on anything in electronics. And, I was kind of appeasing him. And then he would say, oh, could you also write an operating system? Well, yes. And I wasn't sure if a microprocessor could support an operating system. And then he would say, you could have multiple people call in, because he was thinking of starting a business that would replace one he knew, which was time-sharing service in Mountain View called Call Computer, which was actually where we sold my video terminal that turned into the Apple I. So Steve was, he was always looking for ways to make something in the world out of these designs. But you see, he was also good at spotting me, this young engineer, doing all these super creative things that nobody had done before. I could just sit down and do circuits with almost no parts, and so he spots people like that all his life, I think, and the best. And even, when I get kind of rusty on technology, Steve's always been very, very nice to me, very cordial, very respectful. And, so I think you just have to be, at a point in time, you have to be that greatness. But he wants great people around him. And that's why I see that Apple is stocked full of, got to be stocked full of, Steve Wozniaks in their categories or better.
Do you know Tim Cook at all? Have you talked to him at all?
I don't know Tim. All I know of him is aside from hearsay and reading articles and all that, is a couple of videos that I watched, both which impressed me a lot. One was he talking to analysts about iPhone or something. He handled it very well. Back in a day of, well, what about, why doesn't the iPhone have this? Or what about that? His answers were very good, because I was trying to get a clue how to answer questions without getting myself in trouble with Steve and the company. But more than that, I saw his commencement speech to Auburn State, and was just very impressed. He just spoke candidly and openly, and it was coming from the heart. It wasn't, phony executive type talk about having feelings and emotions, and what he liked about Steve Jobs, and how it just totally influenced him to come to Apple, and how you had to figure in what you really believed inside emotionally, and that's a large part of it. It helps to have a nice, well-known big company with Apple's reputation too, but you just sometimes have to say, I'm not going to necessarily take the safe path. I'm going to go with what I think is the better way.
Is there a particular kind of genius that you think that Steve Jobs had? Is there some way to characterize what his abilities were?
Since I knew him when he was very young,
right, it's
very difficult to recognize any type of genius back then. Mine was rather easy. It was a specific type.
Right.
He was very rapid, fast thinking, like he was desperate, almost either ADHD or kind of like a little bit paranoid or something like that, desperate, high anxiety to find the next thing, to do the next thing, to have some company, have some way to get little tiny bits of income, get a job here, get a job there. He was really good at on his phone in his parents' room. He could take a call and find somebody that's willing to sell him some types of electronic switches for 6 cents that he knew he could sell for $6. And, and I would say, geez, how could, I didn't even think that was ethically right, but I was kind of brought up on the far end of the ethical scale that doesn't match business ethics. Matter of fact, when we started Apple, our founding person, our mentor, the guy that really made Apple, told us what kind of people we have to hire, how Steve Jobs had to learn to run every division in a company, like grooming him for a CEO. That was Mike Markla. And he said that, he turned to me because I had questions about some of the things that we'd have to do in business. Business ethics is not the same as personal ethics.
Yeah.
And I just grunted, well, I'm just going to be in engineering anyway. And I don't have to,
You can stay ethical.
because you are ethical in engineering. What
You have to be. It's all black and white. It either works or it doesn't work. There's no.
But the issue came up around things like, I had told some people we could sell this new computer for like $500, and they were down at Hughes in Southern California. So Mike Markkula was a nice sweetie. He let me keep my word, and he kind of made a few boards available for $500, but then only for a very short time, and nobody could ever really find out about it. So that I kept my word, but the company, wasn't going to be a low-profit company. And also we had to get the picture onto a TV. There was no video in those days, so you had to use some kind of modulator. And as a ham radio operator, I was, all my life, I just grew up I was such a young ham radio operator. When you are pure and your ethics are, very, I don't know, it's very, whatever you call that.
Non-profit. It's not about money. It's about.
No, it's not non-profit. It's kind of a range of ethics, and the word is just skipping me right now. You're idealistic.
Idealistic. There you go.
And I was going to be a protector for the rest of my life of the airwaves and not have spurious transmissions if you ignore TV jammers. but see, as a company, can you make a product that transmits on Channel 3? I wouldn't let Apple do that. I said, no, we can't do that. And people weren't going to be able to open up the back of their TVs and use oscilloscopes and run wires into their TVs with little adapter circuits to get the video displayed. And so what we did, I think behind my back, Mike Markkula or somebody in our company, I think Rod Holt, the guy who designed our power supply, our analog engineer, designed a little modulator circuit and then gave it to an outsider, which was Marty Spergel, and he sold it. I forgot what he called it, but it was the way to get your Apple II onto it. Every time we sold an Apple II, we sold one of those.
Wow. When was the last time you talked to Mr. Jobs?
Oh, it was a few months ago.
It's been a while.
And he called me. Yeah, he called me, and I don't know. He'd heard something about me.
Are you anxious to talk to him again, or?
Oh, I always love talking to him. I don't call him enough. It's really funny, but the day his resignation came out was a day I was going to send him an email because everybody has ideas. A product should do this, product should do that. And I decided long ago, I'm not going to get into this marketing game and decide what's right for Apple. Inside, they have top people. They really know what they're doing. They're on top of the answers better than me. And in the old days, I used to always notify Steve when something was wrong with a program. Like if you were in a hotel, you know how you have to dial 9 for an outside line?
Right.
And then 1 in area code? It would switch the 9 and the 1. It was just it was remote access. So I told him about it, and he got it fixed. But they took out the ability to call into your own remote access, which was the way I called from distance to join my home network back in the early pre-internet days, So I was pissed. I didn't want to send any more to Apple.
No more fixes for you.
They might also take out the things you like, which is kind of true of all technology nowadays. It's going so fast.
Right.
And I wanted to send a note to him to tell him that, because Steve always thought about, let me think what the issue was. I got to get it back in my head. It's something current, and it's something in the way things should work for humans. It'll come by me. I'm not going to waste time now.
I think he was very focused though on. It wasn't.
I know what it was.
Go ahead.
I know what it was. On my iPhone, I was starting to get blown away, thinking these computers are going to become more like humans, more like people. We're going to be the pet dogs. And my favorite examples of all, I had 3 of them. My favorite, on Siri Assistant on the iPhone,
right?
I could ask the question, what are the 5 largest lakes in California? I tried Google searches and all these other methods, and it'd give me lists of lakes. You have to kind of try to figure it out, and you don't get the right. It's hard to find the one that will get you the right answer. Siri came back with a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, credited to Wolfram Alpha. Then I said into Siri, I spoke, what are the prime numbers greater than 87? The answer came back with only the ones greater than 87 from Wolfram Alpha, which understands greater than. I thought this was so amazing. This was the most amazing thing I've ever had. It disappeared. Apple bought Siri, and just recently those features disappeared. Right. Maybe Siri doesn't go to Wolfram Alpha anymore, but I don't want to ask a question and get a bunch of links that might get me to the answer or get me closer to the answer. I want to ask a question and get the answer. Steve always used to talk about that in the early days of spreadsheets. You don't want a spreadsheet. You just want to ask how much is my car payment. Get the answer. Maybe it's from some other token, some other device out there on the cloud.
Right. He was. I think he always had that in his head.
Philosophy. I thought that his philosophy. Yeah, and I was going to write him about that because, my God, when you can start asking the questions you have all day long, I want to actually ask it right into my iPod Nano on my watch band. I just want to ask questions all day long, have enough, and have somehow enough battery to connect to the internet.
Watch.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, it's always a pleasure. Can we get you to come up here? And we would love to spend a long time with you. You're just so much fun to talk to, and I miss seeing you. We were together in February in South America, you and Janet. It was so much fun to see you, and I hope you'll come up and visit us soon.
Please know anytime. Yeah, always willing to help you, Leo. You're a hero forever.
Oh, well, you're the hero. Thank you, Steve Wozniak. Really appreciate it. Take care, Steve.
Bye, Leo.
Bye-bye. There's a guy. It's funny because I was watching him on CNN. He's very unassuming, and he said, I knew Steve then. We were kids, but he wasn't really willing to talk about Steve today, and I think I understand that. Really.
He's a nerd.
He's a nerd.
No, he's one of us. Like
That's
that guy.
right.
That guy's the real deal.
Yeah, he's the real deal. That's exactly right.
Yeah, no, he's not sitting there worrying about his brand. He's a nerd. And I have so much aloha for that guy on every
Me too.
every level.
Nothing but.
He doesn't have to worry about his brand.
Dwight Silverman is here from the Houston Chronicle, the tech blog, and what's the name? I can't remember the name of the show on on BAI.
It's Technology Bites on KPFT. And actually, I think we're on KKRN now in California. One of the California Pacifica stations has picked us up.
Great.
So, and it airs on Sunday out there.
It's a really fun show. I'd like to be back on it sometime soon if I can.
We'll get you on it ASAP.
Technology Bites. Also with us, Harry McCracken from the Technologizer. I keep leaving out the Z.
People do that sometimes.
He is the Technologizer. Technologizer.com. Merlin Mann, old friend, good buddy. What was the Steely Dan thing?
I was saying that was totally cool. They look like Steely Dan. They must have. Yeah, both of them.
Both of them did. They looked like Steely Dan. You're right.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. That was the era we all looked like Steely Dan in those days.
I don't know what the deal is with that haircut. Why?
No, we all
I
looked
should
like
talk,
that.
but I'm just saying it looked like it's.
I look at. If you
had
got a
one
picture,
of those bow ties.
Yeah.
I had a tie like that.
If you had a picture of me in 1976, that's what I looked like too.
Yep.
We all looked that way.
It's fun to go back to that. I think you can find on YouTube when Steve announced the Mac. I guess 1983 was when he announced.
Oh yeah, he pulled it out.
It's so much fun to watch. It's such a different kind of thing. It's a different Steve. I mean, he's looked so different at different times, and he's still got that stupid bow tie, and it looks awesome. And it's great to be in the room and see like how excited that guy is.
Yeah.
And there's times when not to be all hagiographic, but you see a little glint where he's like, this is pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you totally
when he holds
see
up
that.
the iPad, he's not
You
going,
totally see that.
I hope this scales across the enterprise. He's going, this is awesome.
But he also never took, he never missed an opportunity to take a little dig at Microsoft. Here's a little Steve Jobs kind of recently.
How did that feel? Oh, we've got cards and letters from lots of people that say that iTunes is their favorite app on Windows. Uh-huh. But I mean, I knew you, I think here at D actually... It's like giving a glass of ice water to somebody in hell.
We'll have more with our panel in just a little bit. It's nice to see Steve in that mode. I love it. Maybe I think I can find that Steve Jobs introducing Macintosh. That's pretty good with the big bow tie. It's a pretty good moment. We will continue in just a bit to talk about. There is lots of other news as well, but I think there's no question this is the story of not just the week, probably of the year. But first, before we go on, GoToMeeting. I want to talk a little bit about GoToMeeting now with HD Faces. We've been using and recommending GoToMeeting for a long time. All our meetings, all our conference calls are GoToMeeting because of this great screen sharing. You can show people a PowerPoint presentation or collaborate on a document together. You can train. But now they've added, and it's so mind-boggling, HD Faces. You get video, high-def video of your conferees. There's nothing like seeing the person you're in a meeting with and seeing them smile or nod or fold their arms. Body language is so efficient and it's so important to communication. That's why I love GoToMeeting with HD Faces. A chance for you to see the people you meet with. Let me turn off the sound on this. We don't have to listen to the piano music, but when you see the video in here, it's incredible. Just visit GoToMeeting.com. You can try it free for 30 days. GoToMeeting.com. Use the offer code TWiT, and this is exactly what you see. You get the screen sharing, but you get up to 6 high-def pictures, crystal clear pictures, the best in the industry. So I can't explain it, but it really does transform meetings. It is really fantastic. If you've been wanting to try GoToMeeting, now you've got an extra reason to do it. GoToMeeting.com. Try the HD faces. All you need is the internet and a webcam, and you can do it. And you can do it for free for the next 30 days if you use the offer code TWiT. All our meetings are GoToMeetings. And I think that should be true for everyone. And we do thank them for their support of This Week in Tech. We've been having fun with Eileen and the TriCaster. Eileen, you know, I got to tell you, our producer, Eileen, is running the whole show. I often say that one of the ideas that we had to make TWiT financially feasible is instead of having, you know, a couple people in front of the camera and 24 people behind the camera, we have 4 big minds here, all the content here, and one person is doing the job of about 20 back there as the TD. And of course, you couldn't do it without that TriCaster 850. Give me a TriCaster transition. Watch this. She's really good at this. She's sitting there. I don't know. You can't even. She's like at the battleship. She's like Galactica. She's got surrounded by keyboards.
Here we go.
All right. Whoa.
And I didn't have the audio. One more time.
Let's do it one more time. Yeah. That's that new tech TriCaster 850 Extreme. We are using the Extreme, and it really is what makes it possible for us to do all of the stuff we do here with a one-man operation. It's basically a TV truck in a box. One person, one man, one woman can do lower thirds, can do all the transitions, all the graphics. We were even having, I don't know, what were we doing? We were making my lower third go like this.
Oh yeah, we were twisting it. But this one's a better TriCaster.
Let's see, another
transition.
TriCaster transition. No, from TriCaster. Anyway, thanks to the folks at NewTek for making that possible. NewTek, NEWTEK.com. And if you're looking at video production, this is the way of the future. It's the only way we could do what we're doing. 5x5 is all audio, right? You guys don't do video. Is that why you like him better? Is that why you like Dan better?
I don't like anybody.
You like Dan better because he doesn't make you get on camera.
No. Most of my friends are, very unpleasant and not attractive. I go to a meeting, I wouldn't want to look at all my friends. I don't even know how you do that.
You wouldn't want to see them.
No, I mean, you should come with some kind of special.
Ew.
Here you go, capture this.
Ew.
Platinum version makes your friends look better.
Maybe
a little less HD. Maybe you pay a little more. You don't see as much of your friends.
That's a really good idea.
Can I just say, Leo, last time I did some with you with the HD, we got tons of makeup. I got no makeup today.
I have a makeup room, but I don't have a makap artist.
Well, you and I, we would look like Harold Lloyd by the time we got on camera.
I know. Oh, you're talking about in Canada.
We'd be like, yeah, exactly.
They airbrush you. They go.
I missed that. My pores are large.
Irene Tien. Do you know who she is? She's at Irene on Twitter.
Oh.
And when the Irene hurricane started she's been Irene on Twitter since 2006. Mm-hmm. When the hurricane started coming, for some reason, people just assumed that she was the hurricane.
Naturally.
So apparently, a big upsurge in the number of messages she was getting. Someone with the handle Caramel Dreams said, "Dear at Irene, can you stop, please?" From at Broadway All Day. "Hey, at Irene, can you make a hard right for us? There's this triangle in Bermuda I think you'd love." So she posts, by the way, tweeting at Irene doesn't deliver messages to the hurricane. Sorry.
I got another one for you, just related to that. You guys, have you ever used that great iOS app called Elements? My friend Justin makes that. And unfortunately, he had the bad fortune to be early enough on Twitter that he is at Justin.
Oh, don't be
Twitter.
at Justin.
So there's a certain very goofily coiffed young man to whom many messages are sent that actually end up in Justin's because they think he's Justin Bieber.
Of course they do, because how could anybody besides Justin Bieber be at Justin?
The temerity.
The temerity.
So anyway, have fun, Justin. I just got you some more followers. Nice hair elements.
Does his bio say "I am not Justin Bieber"?
Well, we talked about it a little. I think for a while he was screwing with people a little.
He said "I am Justin Bieber."
Yeah, he said I can't reply to your tweet. I'm drunk or whatever. Just kind of mess with them a little bit.
He says say currently in exile at Justin W because of a teen pop star. So I guess he's had to abandon.
Oh yes, that's true.
He's had to abandon it. Yeah. No, he's still posting. It looks like.
You ever seen Irene gave up and has just started retweeting stuff relating to the hurricane?
Well, don't worry, it'll move on. What's the next one? What comes after I? J.
Justin.
Hurricane Justin.
Sure.
Wow. He could be double whammy for poor Justin.
Hey, I'm a big fan. Could you come to my town and also not destroy it?
I actually love Elements. It's a really wonderful app for iPad particularly, but you can use it on the iPhone as well. Sprint, speaking of iPhone, may be getting the iPhone 5 I think that would be great. Now all we need is T-Mobile, and you'd have the complete set. This is from Mr. Dwight Silverman's tech blog. How did you hear about this, Dwight? Is this the Journal?
I stole it from some other blog, the way I usually.
The Wall Street Journal, I think, was the one that.
Right,
Journal.
it was the Wall Street Journal in this case.
Do you guys think the Journal is reliable? They seem to have a lot of Apple rumors. Are they? They must have a source.
And there's been some speculation that their source is Steve Jobs.
They're the house organ for Apple, basically.
Right.
Aren't they kind of like the bald bearded boing boing? Like stuff just ends up there early because people want
Dwight's
to.
the bald bearded boing boing.
Oh, my apologies, Dwight. But don't they become like the sink for links? You think like people want Walt to link to their thing?
Well, it's not Walt.
It wasn't Walt.
Particularly.
No, it's not
Journal.
Walt. It's the former Journal part. He's all things D, and they're
Well, he still writes for them, but he's been doing it for 20 years.
I kind of assume it's true if they say it's happening in a way that
I do too.
wouldn't for 99%.
It gives it credibility. It's more than Mac rumors, let's say. Yeah.
The Journal.
Well, it said back a year ago, I wrote that I thought that with the iPhone 4, that all 4 carriers would end up with that device at that point. And I said I was just purely speculating. It kind of made sense. But I think that may happen this year. I mean, I think you'll see T-Mobile get it, and I think you'll also see Sprint get it. Although T-Mobile could get it by default if it does end up getting...
It's AT&T.
If it's AT&T, yeah.
I think you make the point, I think this is probably true, that the rumors have been strong that there's going to be a unified CDMA GSM chipset that will allow the iPhone to work on both all 4 carriers because they'll support both technologies.
And I think that's an Apple supply thing as much as anything else. I mean, it means that they have one assembly line. It means they have one SKU. They have they're able to sell both out of the same crate of boxes that come in. It just simplifies things for them, and that just makes a lot of sense.
Hey, speaking of 20 years, this guy, 20 years old, Tux the Penguin. This is the 20th anniversary of Linux. Do you think Linux has made its mark, or is it for nerds only?
Like Linux, not just Unix?
Linux.
I don't know a lot about it, but boy, it sure seems to have made a big mark. There was that time in the late 90s when it really felt like there was that big surge for the enterprise, but you know what? I don't know enough about.
I think a lot of.
I think it's a huge influence.
I mean, look, we use it every day. Every time you go to a website, our website, and many others, you're on Linux. But I think really the people judge it based on whether Linux ever got to the desktop.
Right. That was always the dream.
And it never did.
It was always like a year away from having a huge impact, and it hasn't had that impact with normal people. But so many people use Linux without knowing it because Android is Linux.
Android's Linux. You're right.
It's everywhere.
500,000 new Linux users a day.
Yeah, it turned out to be something which
that's a good point.
Is profoundly important, but you're not aware you're using it for the most part.
It's infrastructure more than anything else. It was August 25th, 1991, that Finnish computer science student Linus Torvalds first announced to the world. He did it on, by the way...
It's on Usenet, right?
Usenet, exactly. I think he said something like, I'm writing an operating system. It will be like Minix. Anybody want to help? Come on, you can help. Here it is. Here's this is from the Linux Foundation's Linux History Gallery. Hello, everybody out there using Minix. I'm doing a free operating system, just a hobby. Won't be big and professional like GNU for 386 AT clones. This has been brewing since April and I'm starting to sound like a leprechaun.
Mort. I'm just thinking you're a very Swedish chef right now.
I'm just watching. Merlin's his eyeballs are getting bigger. I know he's.
You guys missed like 35 minutes of Transylvania before this.
I'd like any feedback on things people dislike in Linux, as my OS resembles it somewhat. This is so cute. I've currently ported Bash and GCC, and things seem to work. Wow. 20 years isn't that long, and yet I doubt very much. And the thing that Linus did that was really cool, he trademarked the name so that he would be the one who could say, this is Linux, this isn't Linux. And I think that was actually smart. But he didn't patent or in any way encumber the source code. He gave it away, basically.
Stallman did the same thing, right? Yeah, I think he has a service mark.
Stallman, does he have a service mark?
Yeah, so nobody else can.
Yeah, I think that's smart because then you can at least say what is Linux and what isn't Linux. Otherwise, we'd have a million, pseudo Linuxes out there. Anyway, and Tux the Penguin says, This is, by the way, penguins do never. You will never see a penguin with yellow feet.
You want?
No, this is a not.
I think you can make that in Emacs. I think.
Not occurring in nature.
So yellow feet,
What color are
daddy-o.
penguin feet?
I think if you
were to check the Wikipedia, there are no yellow.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Why didn't the Red Hat Linux-ish things take off as much?
desktop?
Well, as like for enterprise desktop things. Why? That seemed like that was like a giant thing in the late 90s.
I think this is a software patent issue fundamentally, and the fact that SCO sued, of course, a failed lawsuit ultimately, but one that went on for a long time, and that Microsoft then licensed and indemnified people and said, well, if you buy our products, you don't have to worry about getting sued, really created, and this was intentional on Microsoft's part, really created this perception that it might be dangerous to use Linux. And I think that I think that's a lot of it. I think that Linux enterprise, when you talk about in the enterprise, I think that was one of the things that really kind of put a chill on it, unfortunately.
So why didn't that put a chill on the use of it as server software or particularly web server software? Because even in large enterprises that use Windows on the desktop, you have Linux everywhere, kind of on the back end, right?
I think that they swallowed their concerns because of reliability. It just works, right?
And free.
And it's free, certainly.
Right.
And I think also it's a little less foreground. So maybe a little less risky.
It's hard to change, too.
Didn't feel so risky.
My bank, I'm sorry to interrupt you. My bank still uses, I think they use Windows 2000.
Oh, God.
Like, I mean, no, why? It's very costly to upgrade. It works, right? I mean, I don't have air quotes for that, but it works for them. And do you know what I'm saying? And like, I wonder if that's a part of it.
I think there's still financial services that use OS2.
A lot of them are using web browsers, using Internet Explorer a lot.
There are ATMs that run OS2, and don't underestimate the importance of Microsoft Office, whether you love it or hate it.
Right.
If you want to run
Open Office is no clone, is it?
No, not at all. And I think Office is almost more important to businesses than Windows is.
Actually, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. They buy it for Office. Let's see. You know, has Chrome been crashing more often on the Mac for you?
On Lion, yes, totally.
It crashes a lot on Lion. Absolutely. I get that snap all the time.
You know what I do? I've gone through.
Have you changed from Chrome? Are you sticking
I've
with
been
it?
jumping back and forth, but I mean, I usually just refresh. But yeah, I'm using
well,
Safari
I just
a little more.
closed
Do you ever
it.
watch your processes in Chrome?
Oh, no. Should I?
Well, I mean, it's got not protected.
How do I watch my processes?
There's a nerd bit under the little wrench. But what I did was, to be honest, anything that I could accomplish with a bookmarklet, I took out the extension because, I mean, that stuff's all running all the time. If all I need is to post something to Pinboard, I don't really need a full extension for that. Right. And that helped a little bit. So I just
Maybe
kept
I have too much crap running on this thing. That's what happened with Firefox.
I saw like one of my friends
just
who
like Firefox,
got to delete things from my hard drive, you know.
Yeah. By the way, David Allen's going to be our guest on Wednesday for Triangulation. Why don't you come up and you can help us with it?
He's a nice man. I don't want to step on his thing. He's a very nice man. We had a nice exchange last week. He's David Allen, the author of Getting Things Done, big fan.
GTD.
Great guy.
That's
nice
really
man.
where you made your bones, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that my fondness, so when 43 Folders started, I think obviously my own, gosh, how much I relied on getting things done, but also the fact that a lot of people would struggle with the implementation of getting things done through no fault of David's, partly because we're just fiddly idiots who just need focus.
No, I think it's because we liked to mess around with these
you could sit there all day and
implementation
go,
instead of doing something.
Like which notebook, what pen, but no, that guy's the real deal, and he'll tell you, like, you can do this. It started out getting things done, and if you're a nerd and you're struggling.
You still in using OmniFocus? Is that your choice?
I play with a lot of them. I recommend different ones to different people depending on what their deal is, but that's what I use. But David Allen designed, not to show GTD, but like he designed it to be used with paper and a pen. And
that's where 43 folders comes from. You make 43 folders.
Tickler file,
yeah. Like what is it? It's 13.
It's 12 months and 30 days.
30 days.
And then you just keep moving it. It's exactly the kind of stuff nerds love.
12 months.
Good man.
That's only 42 folders.
Open PCalc. You need PCalc. Oh, one's for Elijah. Old Testament jokes. I got nothing. So nice to be back here.
Larry Page, says the Wall Street Journal yesterday, knew. God, this is, you know, I maybe this is just me, but I just cannot get upset about this. That Google for years was selling ads on AdSense, or AdWords, I should say, to Canadian pharmacies targeting American consumers, and he did nothing about it. The Google admitted to doing that, and they paid a $500 million fine. But apparently, at least one attorney general from Rhode Island and the Department of Justice say, but Larry Page knew. He knew. Can you get, to me, I feel like, bully for him. Let's get some more Canadian pharmacy ads on the internet. What the hell's wrong with that? Why do you think people want Canadian pharmacy ads? Because it's cheaper to buy the drug from Canada.
And illegal.
It's illegal. I understand it's illegal.
I mean,
But
good
it's
places
illegal
will
because
refund your
Big
money.
Pharmacy wants to charge us more than they charge in Canada, right? For the same drug.
I think the bar is higher for Google than some companies because of the whole "don't be evil" thing.
But it's not evil. Evil is being a pharmaceutical company and charging more money to Americans because you can.
I'll bet Google did not use that argument.
But I
when they
am.
were explaining
I
themselves.
agree with you, and I understand if the Attorney General was staring me in the face, I'd say, yes, sir, I'm sorry, here's $500 million. But I just think that it's Big Pharma who's really the evil one here.
Google, there was a story, I forget who wrote it this week, that where somebody explained what "don't be evil" means, and it doesn't necessarily mean the kind of thing you're talking about,
Right.
Leo. It's don't be evil to your customers. Be good to your customers, which is your users, your searchers. So it's things that look like it's Google being predatory towards other companies. If you look at one of the either the side effect or the motivation for them to do that is that it benefits their customers in some way. If you look at that part of it, then it is not being evil. And having ads for cheaper drugs on your website, not evil, right?
Well,
if you're looking at it in terms of a U.S. consumer who wants to
Right.
pay less and use Google to do that.
I guess the question is, are these drugs somehow dangerous? No. They're the
They're
same.
Canada.
They're from Canada. Okay, so here's the issue. There is a little loophole in the Canadian law that says, so these drugs were neither FDA approved nor Canadian drug regulation approved. There was a little loophole that said Canadian pharmacies, if they are shipping the drugs to the U.S., are not subject to Canadian regulation. So they could have
That's
been
a big
dangerous.
loophole.
They could have been poison pills. But I don't think that they were. I think they were, in fact, the same exact drugs that the pharmas sell us in the U.S. for $4 or $5. Don't people get on buses and drive to Canada to get their cancer medicines because it's so much cheaper there?
It's ridiculous.
And isn't that evil?
Well, what's crazy is, like, I hear from friends that there are well, first of all, like, I don't want to be like tinfoil hat guy, but generic versus brand name, there's actually a huge difference in some kinds of things. I just know. I've tried with some stuff that I take. I've tried different things that are.
I gotta say
don't
that
want the
that's
generic.
That Stratera's really been working for you. You keep up the good
Well, that's
work.
a bass player from Chicago, Peter Stratera. No, but the thing is, what's ludicrous, and I don't have an opinion on like whether this is right, wrong, or whatever, but it is crazy that you can get a brand name for sometimes like a tenth of what it costs for like maybe not generic.
It strikes me
Here's
that
the-
there's some profit taking from the drug companies. There's a little tiny
Yeah.
bit.
Well, wait a minute. We came up with a different kind of, container for it, so we get a new patent. No, but the thing is, I think Google, it's going to be one of those things like eBay or any of those things where they're a platform for this. Can you imagine how many billions of ads they run every year? And the last thing in the world they want to incur the wrath on is like suddenly becoming the people who have to filter each one of those for legality.
Well, that's a good point, too.
Well, they vet them for relevance right now. But what would happen if Google? Again, I don't have this is not a value judgment, but I bet they would happily go, sure, here's $500 million. Like, I so don't want to have to figure out if this
Right.
lady really does nails or is a hooker. Like, I so don't want to have to like go track that down.
This is kind of analogous to the problem they have with YouTube. And they are protected in that case by the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which says that they are a carrier. They have the safe harbor protection, that they don't have to vet everything on YouTube. They don't have to protect copyright holders. They merely have to provide a mechanism for copyright holders to complain.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be kind of similar for these ads, or maybe not? I mean, isn't it onerous to expect them to vet every ad for legality?
Well, supposedly they knew explicitly that they weren't legal. And
Oh, new schmoo.
Also, chat room guy.
You're right, that's relevant. That is
Generics and name brands are not the same.
They're not? They're not the same chemical?
Ask one of those doctors about it. The quality control on generics are like,
Really?
Oh, sure.
Because I
It's
always
not a meth lab or anything. But
I
mean,
always opt for the
Go with-
generic drug.
Well, it depends. If it's something like this is, you should play the music. It's a rat hole. I'm sorry.
No, it's not a rat hole. It's interesting.
It's crazy though, because boy, you think about that. This has happened in some locations where there are places where they go like, oh my gosh, you've got to start policing the weekly news ads for.
How do you do that?
Well, that's the thing is, I bet you just think about how much of their revenue. I guess maybe not, but I imagine the pie graph for Google goes pretty heavily toward AdSense.
They made a lot of money. And, by the way, there's the contention by the federal government that Google actually helped them. They said, oh, no, you want to put these ads here and things like that. So they were actually, kind of, maybe they were a little.
Do you use Google Voice?
I do.
I'm sorry I'm talking too much.
Love Google Voice.
I had a funny Google Voice experience this week. I got one of those mystery meat numbers, like on an 800 number. Yep. And, of course, the first thing I do, I grab it. I search for it on Who Called Me or whatever. Use Google Chrome. Google.com to find this. It was apparent that it is a ad call from Google to try and get me to upgrade up to a business listing.
I've had that call.
And then I used Google Voice to block that number. So that's what I would call an end-to-end solution that scales across the enterprise. Thank you, Google, I guess.
Blocking Google with Google. Speaking of Google, Max, this is kind of weird. Maybe you have a thought about this, Harry. Google bought a company called Slide, I think for $200 million. And they were very, very proud of the fact that they made the Slide division kind of independent, and they came out with a bunch of programs, most recently PhotoVine, but Pool Party, a bunch of really interesting programs, except that they were all on iOS. Most of them used Facebook Connect. None of them used Google's own tools. And shortly after PhotoVine, Super Poke Pets. That's one you probably use all the time.
Oh, I'm forever poking my pets.
Yeah. Disco, remember that one?
Is that a Facebook thing, the poking pets?
I think Dwight hung up right on that line.
So no pet jokes.
We'll get Dwight back. I don't want to know anything about
Can you help me understand, Leo? You use that to poke somebody else's pet? Is that the notion? Does your pet help you with that?
Harry, did you ever play with Super Poke Pets?
I haven't used any of these apps as far as I can remember.
I actually downloaded Pool Party, which was good because they call it pee-pee.
Sure, pocket pool.
So Pool Party was a way to share photos, and I liked it. Although it was a little weird to pee-pee somebody in the pool party. It's just an odd thing. They bought this company. Max Levchin, who was really probably the guy they wanted to hire, is gone. He's leaving Google. And they shut down Slide. And, they allowed them to do PhotoVine, which came out last week. Even that is going to be shut down.
Yeah, a week ago we were all excited about PhotoVine and wondering when we could get on PhotoVine.
It's over already. Plant a photo, watch it grow. PhotoVine, this is more photo sharing stuff. Slide was actually a pretty neat product, a pretty neat company.
The original stuff they did was cool.
Did Google completely bungle this? What happened?
I'm just struck. I mean, this is the same month that HP shuts down
WebOS,
TouchPad, which has spent $1.2 billion for a year ago. It staggers me that these companies have enough money that they can burn through it like that.
I think there's something. Somebody was saying this week on one of our shows, that this is kind of a really an indicator of the new economy in technology and startups. Maybe I know, Merlin, you're a big startup. You know a lot of these guys, but that you got to have a hit right away or you go. It's like the movie industry. If you don't have a big first weekend, the smartest thing to do is cut bait and say goodbye.
Yeah, somebody really smart said something recently. I want to say it was Horace Did You on a Simco, but I don't remember. But somebody said, and forgive me, chat room,
They'll know.
The jackals can look it up.
Yeah.
When you buy a company, you can buy it for one of three things. You can buy it for resources, you can buy it for talent, you can buy it for market share. But you have to pay a price that covers all three of those, but you can only really do one.
You only
of those.
get one.
Yeah, and so I think one of the problems is, and this is even setting aside the kind of cultural clashes that you see. I mean, AOL, Time Warner, how great did that go in terms of culture? It happens all the time. It's so hard to do an acquisition. And so yeah.
I'm just showing this little video PhotoVine of people. I don't know what. This is the same artist who does the Virgin America.
I can totally tell.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know why? It's the pointy
Love
boobies.
the nun.
Yeah.
Love the nun. The nun with the router with the linksys.
Yeah. And let me hear the voice because I think it's the same guy.
Sharing has become. Well, what if you could easily share photos and keep the personal connection?
No, but it's a similar guy.
Introducing PhotoVine. A PhotoVine is a collection.
I've seen that video a dozen times.
Let's not get excited because it's over. So the idea being that if you can't, so obviously Google got a couple of hundred slide engineers. That's what they got. They got the talent.
I think most acquisitions,
talent.
he said, talking out of his butt, I think most are involve talent. I mean, and you can see this at Google. My heuristic for Google used to be that if it doesn't make it into a single sign-on within the first year, you're never going to see it
And
again.
this didn't.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's some talented people who,
Right.
yeah.
Google has been really explicit that it's going to get rid of a lot of stuff. They want to do fewer things.
This
to
is
do them
Larry
better.
Page, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to put more wood behind the arrow, and so that they're killing stuff right and left, which is probably ultimately is a good idea.
I like that phrase.
I'm going to be using that.
I want to put
all
more
the
wood behind my arrow.
I can think of somebody else in my house.
That's where I
like
go to
that.
those Canadian pharmacies
Yes.
for.
Yes.
They killed Google.
Harry's just going full speed. Go ahead. Just ignore us, Harry.
They killed Google News Timeline, which was a service I just loved and used all the time.
I love that too. They killed that.
They just killed Sets, which sucks. Sets was awesome.
What's Sets?
Google Sets? You
They're
could go
killing
like,
stuff before I even know about it.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Harry. All the lamp
You can
stuff.
sort of fake your way through replicating Google News Timeline with Google News if you know what to do, but they killed that, and I'm sorry. That was something Andy Hertzfeld worked on the UI on.
Oh, that's too bad.
Before he moved over to Google Plus.
Well, I guess you cannot fault a company, even a company like HP. You know, it's funny. Somebody said we now know the HP TouchPad was not a failure. The price was the failure.
Well,
because they're selling it out at $99.
Yeah, but anything that you
I
sell
don't
for
think
way
so.
less
I don't
than
think so.
it makes to build that will do well.
Bear with me here. What if you did sell it at $99 and I mean, Google's shown that or Firefox has shown in the browser you can make lots of money by Google searches in the browser. What if you did subsidize it to buy market share? Look, they already lost that money. Maybe they should have lost the money up front, subsidized market share, get developers going, get people excited about it. You think, Harry? Dwight, you sounded skeptical. You don't?
No, I think that HP and Leo Apotheker have a completely different direction for that company. I think they want to go enterprise, and I saw a description of the HP TouchPad as being similar to the Newton for Apple. Is that when as soon as Steve Jobs came back, he killed it,
right?
And as soon as Leo Apotheker had the opportunity, he killed something that Mark Hurd had. Essentially.
It was a Mark Hurd. It was a Mark Hurd.
Right.
Acquisition.
And I just think that he was looking for any excuse, and when it didn't sell out immediately. But see, if you sell anything of that complexity, any type of gadget like that, and you have a limited amount of them, and you sell it for $99, every nerd who wants to hack it is going to go buy it.
Right.
And that's what happened. And I don't think you can look at that and say, okay, that's the price tablets have to be.
No, I don't think they have to be $99 for sure.
Right, but I think that
Apple has shown that they can do pretty well at $500.
Harry's piece about Amazon, which was I really liked. It was really simply written, and he walked through kind of what if this price, what is this price, is a good exercise at kind of looking at what a real what tablets will cost. The iPad is actually a pretty cheap piece of technology in terms of cost. We all expected it to be $900 when it came out, right?
Right.
And it's $499, but I think we're about to see the quote Apple tax be applied to the iPad, because once the Amazon tablet comes out, I think that's going to set a new bar for pricing.
Let's talk. That was a great article, Harry. Let's talk about Amazon. It's going to any day now. We're going to start seeing those Amazon tablets. Let's talk about that in just a second. What a great panel. I'm so Merlin, Mann, it's great to have you. Thank you for the coffee. Plug for Heart, Hearth, Earth. This is Brown Owl Coffee on 22nd and Terraval in San Francisco. The best coffee place in the world, right?
That is right.
Here's
my
the shot.
friends
Here's the shot.
James and Ariana, and they make great coffee.
It smells good. And before the show, just so you know, folks, we were eating these beans right out of the bag.
Slamming them.
They're that good.
I still have one to go.
You brought me a bag of coffee called Snake Bite Espresso.
Boom. They do it themselves. $8.19. They just made this fresh.
It was fresh.
Fresh.
It's only that's kind of 9 days old actually.
Well, it's a Julian calendar.
Thank you. That was very nice of you. Also with us, Harry McCracken of the Technologizer blog, which is a must-read. Really great analysis. Harry, many years editor-in-chief at PC World, right?
Yes.
I got the magazine right?
For 13 years. And
wow.
I should give a plug to time.com, too, because I write a weekly column for Time as well.
Oh, that's good. When did you start doing that?
About a year ago.
Oh, that's great.
It's also called Technologizer.
Very
Thursdays.
nice. Time. Is that only on the time.com site?
It's on the website, and I write for the magazine pretty frequently.
I have seen your byline
Not
in the
every
magazine.
week, but some weeks.
Yeah. Okay, good. And, of course, Mr. Tech Blog himself, Dwight Silverman from the Houston Chronicle. He's our token newspaper man. You should wear a fedora with a piece of paper in it that says press.
I should wear that red hat, you know. From,
the red hat, red hat.
That's right.
Brought to you today, of course, by Audible.com. I live for Audible books. I listen to Audible books all the time. I'm listening to two right now. Stanislav Lem's Solaris. They did a new translation. Audible should get a lot of credit for this because it was a crappy translation of the original Polish that's been in print for years. Audible said there's a better way. Lem even didn't ever like that translation. They commissioned a new translation of this classic science fiction book and also produced it as part of their Audible Frontiers program. I really want to give them a plug because Audible Frontiers, if you're a science fiction fan, is saving science fiction books, recording them often for the first time ever, classics, and what a great way to listen to. I think science fiction particularly makes good Audible books because it's kind of, they come alive. You really are seeing it. I wasn't really crazy about the George Clooney movie. It was a little
What about the other one? I started watching the other one.
I haven't seen the Polish one. I gotta see that.
It looked great. I just
all right, I'm going to watch that.
It's on the Netflix.
Is it on that? Is it on the streaming?
Yeah, I fell asleep. It looks great.
Yeah, well, I fell asleep during.
Don't like you don't. Nerds.
You will not fall asleep during the book. It's really, really good. So a little credit due there. I'm also listening to this a book that was recommended by Andy Ihnatko, the latest. It's about the Americans going to Paris in the 1830s. The Greater Journey. Oh, is that a good book? I really enjoyed this, but I want to show you since Americans to Paris, David McCullough's latest. He narrates the first chapter, and when you hear David McCullough reading, it's like, why don't all narrators sound this? I mean, you can just follow it so beautifully. I love it.
I would do my email more if he would read it to me.
Yeah, exactly.
He's such a great.
And then Merlin Mann's email came in from. But I wanted to recommend a book, given that we were just talking about David Allen, and he's going to be on Triangulation Wednesday to talk about getting things done. This is a chance for you to quickly getting things done. And you know what? What a great way to listen to this book, because David himself narrates it, and it's really like going to the seminar.
I have listened to it.
It's fantastic. So I just gave you 3 books. Now, here's the deal. There are 75,000 titles at Audible.com. You can pick 2 and have them for free. Almost every book you can get for free. Not all of them, but almost every book you can get absolutely free by going to audible.com/twit2, twit number 2, all one word, and signing up for that's the platinum plan. That's 2 books a month. That's what I do. And your first month is free. Your first 2 books are free. You can cancel at any time. They're yours to keep forever. So it's a very good deal. There's 3. Stanislav Lem's incredible Solaris with his new translation is mind-bogglingly good. The Greater Journey by David McCullough, again, another great book, if you like history, science fiction history. And then Business, Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. You see, this is what I love about Audible. I flip around. I just did a nonfiction book, so I'm doing a fiction book, and then I'm going to do a nonfiction. I just love doing that. Give them a try. They play back on everything, including if you've got a new Kindle, you'll see... In addition to your Amazon books on the Kindle, you'll see your Audible audio books because they play on the Kindle. All the Apple devices, the Zune, if you've got one, the Windows Phone. In fact, the Android app is incredible for Audible. Audible.com/twit2. We thank them for their support of This Week in Tech. So, Harry, you must know, when are we going to see an Amazon tablet?
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to think it's very shortly because they want it to be up and running
Christmas.
by the holidays.
Yeah.
I'd say well before then, I'm guessing.
So you're thinking next month, maybe October at the latest?
Seems logical.
Yeah.
I mean, all the rumors seem to point that direction. The rumors are that it is going to be, I think the New York Post said it's going to be hundreds less on the iPad. And Amazon is one of the few companies that could plausibly kind of subsidize the hardware because they've got the music, they've got the movies, they've got the books, they've got apps. And, my guess is maybe $299. $199
wow.
Wouldn't seem to involve a lot of subsidy.
They're practically giving the Kindle away at this point. It's $113 with ads.
Yeah.
I mean, that's at the point where it's just almost.
So the tablet's going to be more expensive than the Kindle, but Amazon, unlike everybody else, might be willing to subsidize it. Apple, by the way, probably could subsidize the iPad, but it doesn't want to because it can easily sell them at $499 and then
they don't have to
make even more money as people buy stuff.
Would they use it like would the Amazon tablet have the store on it? Could you just because I mean I can
course it
really
would.
see.
I assume so.
Well, yeah, I just mean if you're like
Kindle
an
does.
Amazon Prime nerd, you could go in and just say I want these dish towels tomorrow. Do you think the whole store would be on there?
I do that already all the
But
time.
wouldn't that be kind of a no-brainer to put all that on there? And
So that's
up-to-date,
that's
wish
why
list,
they could
whole
give this
nine?
away.
Hardwired to
Truthfully,
your account.
Hardware button for wish list. I mean,
yeah. And it'll be Android, yeah.
It's Android. I think we know that for sure. It supposedly is not super thin or super light. It's maybe not focused so much on,
You know,
on elegance.
the industrial design on the Kindle is about as piss poor as you could get, and it's still great, right? Am I wrong?
The new Kindle? The new Kindle is a nice
it's
design.
still well. Okay, it's cheap, plasticky, unusable keyboard.
I think it's titanium. I think the new one is titanium.
Oh, the new. I don't have a titanium Kindle. What are you
Yeah, the
talking
new
about?
one.
There's a titanium Kindle.
The brown
How did
one.
that happen?
The brown one, I think, is metal.
Oh, I'm going to buy that.
Is it brown
now.
Kindle?
Or it's gunmetal
Don't
gray. or
eat the
something.
brown
I don't know what
Kindles.
color.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about? I think
Brown
I don't know
one
what
is
you're
metal.
smoking. There's no titanium Kindle.
Yeah, I think that's titanium. I think
No,
they
it's
told me
not.
What is it?
It's plastic. It's
cheap
cheap.
plastic.
Hold on, I got one. Just a minute, I'll
Look,
go get it.
instant order
I'll go get
update.
it.
You purchased this item. It's cheap plastic. Carbon fiber. Are you? I don't know what you're talking. Wait, he's going to go get. This is how often he's handled his Kindle. He's off. Take a shot of Dwight. He's disappeared. There's an empty chair there. Was I too harsh?
you're a little
He's
harsh.
going to get his titanium Kindle.
Yeah, right. He's still
Oh,
looking
here we
for
go,
it
here we go.
too. That is not titanium. That's plastic. Let's see what Dwight
Okay,
says.
well, yeah, it's plastic.
Wow, this new Kindle is titanium. Yeah, no, it's. But I'm just saying, it's great. I love it. I'm not complaining about it. I'm
How
just
about the
saying that
Kindle 3?
industrial
Kindle
design is
3.
irrelevant if you've got a product that good.
Amazon
Right.
is not about hardware. Amazon is about software and services, and those they do really well.
Right. It's made of adamantium. Says
So
TouchPad.
do you think? So Harry, do you think it'll be called the Kindle?
Wolverine.
Do you think they'll keep that name?
I mean, up until now, they've always said that Kindle is a brand that's only about reading. My guess is going to be it'll be called something else, but there will be a Kindle store and a Kindle app on it.
It's such a good brand.
Kind of like how the iPhone had the iPod
Right.
on it.
That's interesting. So make it, yeah, because they do. I think that they probably do very well with their Kindle apps. And now this read.amazon.com, this HTML5 Kindle, that they probably do want to keep that brand because it's such a good brand.
I think so, and I think for years to come, there will be people who will want something that's that cheap and that
Right.
small and that reading focused.
The thing I love the best about this tablet is actually not the tablet, but it's this case that they sell to go with it that has a lamp light that pulls up
ooh, that's
and
nice.
lights up.
That's nice.
Where? How do I get this over there?
There
There
it
we
is.
go. And it has a little light on the end of it, so when you read at night, you don't bother your partner.
Wow, that really puts wood behind my arrow.
You're not well.
You know, if you call it a tablet, but I'm just thinking, like, if you made a thing that, you could read on, maybe you could put some MP3s and listen to music on. But if you put the Amazon store, Facebook, email, and Twitter on there, I think tons of people would buy that. I don't know if you call that a tablet, but you know what I'm saying? For most people, what do most people do with their computer or with their iPhone or with their whatever? If you were to put and then like Andy
Do
said,
you need a browser or email?
here's the thing. Like Andy said, remember when the Kindle first came out, he made that great remark of saying, well, depending on what you do, the best thing for you might be a lifetime of free 3G, depending on what you use. The problem is right now that browser, that experimental browser, is no fun to use. But if you tune those hardware buttons, this might be a little ambitious for Amazon, but I'm just saying, like if you have a store, Facebook, Twitter, email browser on there, basic syncing,
Wow.
I think that I could see people buying that.
It's almost the computer of the future.
I think ginning up a Kindle and calling it a tablet, I don't know about that. But like if it had the store on it, like wouldn't you? I think that'd be awesome.
Of course, it'll have the store on it.
Oh yeah,
The whole
course it'll
Amazon
have the
store.
store.
the whole
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
I've
Just
got
like
that
there's
on
a-
every phone, every app, every time.
Right.
I mean, that's everywhere, right?
Right, and that's
you use
easy.
the
That's
Amazon
easy
app
for
on
them
your
to do.
on your iPhone
It's easy.
Yeah.
for them.
with one click.
No,
That's death. That's death.
I do, but I have
My
to keep-
wife will say,
keep
"I need a
logging
book,"
in.
and I have it before we've left the restaurant.
All right.
You know. It's, by the way, death not just for me, but also for any bookstore with any. Well, Copperfield's has got to just be dying because I don't go down the street to this great bookstore we have in Petaluma. I just go, yeah, honey, well, I'll get it for you. I'll be here tomorrow. What will it be? Will it be Harry? Will it be hardware power wise comparable to, say, the iPad or the other Android tablets, or will it be a very kind of low and slow? It won't be e-ink, right? It'll be color.
Color, I'm sure, so they can do movies. I mean, the rumor is that it's not going to be that exciting if you care about specs, but on the other hand, there are all these tablets out there that have fantastic specs. They're nowhere near as good as the iPad. So
if it can play, so movies is key. If it can play movie, it's got to be good enough to play movies.
Just to have good video playback.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's not super 10-finger multi-touch in the way that the iPad is, and I can see something still having a good experience without that.
Doesn't need that.
We know that there are tons of people out there who'll never spend $500 for an iPad.
Right.
So I think there is a market out there for something that's simple and well done, and a couple of $100 cheaper.
Are people scared to? I mean, Apple and what's left of the Android tablet makers scared to death? They must be. Maybe not Apple. Apple must. In some ways, Apple may welcome this as a differentiator. The iPad is if you want something that's really great and works well and is beautifully designed, get that. This is the netbook to Apple's MacBook Air.
I think it's probably going to be years before Apple has any reason to be scared of
of
any
anybody.
other tablet.
Right. Harry, you in your piece, you kind of walk through the different pricing, and you talk about they wouldn't take it down to a certain level because that takes it below a Kindle. But would this, and then Leo mentioned they're almost giving the Kindle away, would this tablet maybe be the excuse that Amazon would need to give the Kindle away so it can price this at, say, $149?
People always say that that's the next logical thing for Amazon to do, and I assume there will be another Kindle for the holidays as well. And it would be awfully fun if it was a free Kindle. I'm still a little bit skeptical about that.
They're so close.
But they're getting there.
It's interesting because you only get like $25 off for the ads they have on there. I guess it's not very valuable to them to put ads on there.
I mean, the theory is maybe if you belong to Amazon Prime, which is what, is that $80?
Yeah, $75 a year.
You join Prime and you get a free Kindle.
Prime is the best deal right now anywhere.
Did you see this it was back in February, but somebody was graphing the line of what a Kindle is cost over time. I'm sure you saw this, Harry, but
yes.
and predicting based on this the Kindle would be free.
It's a pretty steep slope.
Well, if you look at the line, I mean, it's a perfect straight line.
Yeah.
But I realize that's nothing, to bank on, but it's such an interesting idea. In the same way, like I wouldn't charge $1 for iTunes. Like it's worth more than $1 to me, but I think it's worth a lot more to Apple to give it away and make it a platform for buying stuff.
Right.
That's the thing is the Kindle. I mean, gosh, to even compare it to Apple, I know I'm the big fanboy or whatever, but I think comparing those, that's, I don't think Honda Accords are going to sell less because somebody makes a cheaper skateboard. I mean, we're talking about different kinds of things. I see this being the pad that everybody's always wanted. See? Crashing. Memory.
You think it's my extensions?
I don't know. Could be your... Excuse me?
What the hell's that?
Oh, hold on.
Oh, thank God it's not in here. I thought that I had visions of the brick house burning down. Oh, my God. The horror. You really scared me right there. Oh, my God.
My lovely wife is cooking, and sadly, the builders of this house put a smoke detector right above the oven.
Why do they do that? They always
Whenever
do that.
you open the oven, the smoke detector.
But how did you turn that off so? Do you have a remote control? How did you do that?
No, I have a mute. I just muted Skype.
Oh.
And so you didn't hear it. It was still going on.
Oh.
But my apologies. And you're all welcome to come over for dinner because it's going to be...
God, if I ever hear that sound in here, I'm just going to die. I'm going to die. So the results are in. You might remember that the eBay auction for the drawing of an HP TouchPad. I don't mean a drawing for an HP TouchPad. I mean a drawing of an HP TouchPad, 16 gigabytes, Wi-Fi, 9.7 inches. Finally closed at $99,900. Wow, you are the lucky high bidder.
Does it come with a drawing of a case?
I think the case is extra. It's a nice drawing, though.
Sure is.
I think some attention to detail has been put into the icons.
It's thin enough it fits inside a manila envelope.
It's probably got as much future as the touchpad. That's pretty funny. Why? This is obviously just a goof, yeah?
I think it might be a goof.
I don't know.
It may be.
One time, my friend and I signed in 1999 when the Star Wars movie came out. We had some cocktails, and we found a Pizza Hut box with a picture of Anakin Skywalker on it, and we signed it and sold it on eBay.
Whose name did you sign on?
Anakin Skywalker.
Why not?
Well, I mean, you don't get that every day.
No.
I don't know.
You didn't sign it. Wait a minute. You didn't sign it Mark Hamill.
No.
You signed it Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, I don't want to spoiler alert, but yeah, I mean.
So, footnote.
Anyway.
Wait a minute. Anakin Skywalker. No, would have it. David Prowse should sign it. Oh, was that a spoiler?
My daughter now walks around the playground spoiling The Empire Strikes Back for every other kid, by the way.
And by the way, Darth Vader.
Oh, and she always says, but it's a secret after she tells them. They're standing
It's
there
a secret.
Dog.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, I'm a bad dad.
That's terrible.
Very bad dad.
How does she even know? Did you
certainly
tell her?
not because she's watched it.
You told her. Eagles singer Don Henley says that the Electronic Frontier Foundation and Google aid and abet criminals. In a op-ed piece in USA Today this week, Don Henley, who was the drummer, was he not?
He was a drummer and vocalist, occasional vocalist.
He says that blocking rogue websites, banning them from search engines, and cutting off their advertising and credit cards is just common sense. He's talking about the Protect IP Act, which is, in fact, far from common sense and breaks the internet. That's what the EFF says. Eric Schmidt says it's a disastrous precedent for freedom of speech. He says there's no First Amendment right to infringe intellectual property. See, he's going to be the new Lars Ulrich for the 21st century. And by the way, that went well for Lars. Lars is now making appearances, making fun of himself. He was in what movie was he in? Get Him to the Greek, and he mocked. And he mocked him. In fact, I think in Get Him to the Greek, didn't the comedian, what's the British
Russell Brand?
Didn't Russell Brand say, go sue Napster or something?
Right.
So just Don Henley, I'm just telling you what your future holds. That's
We're pulling out of the In-N-Out just down the street and played our daughter Master of Puppets for the first time.
Oh, that
first
must
time
be,
she heard Battery.
That's a moment.
Thank you. Yeah, Battery.
That's a moment.
Battery! She liked the drums.
You haven't played, no, but you haven't yet played her Exit Night into Light.
No, we're starting with the classic side one, Master of Puppets. No Mayhem, no Venom until she's at least 6.
You have to Neverland. All right.
Rat hole.
More than a rat hole. A Metallica rat hole.
Can I ask a question about the Kindle thing?
Yes, quickly.
Okay. So it seems to me that one of the benefits, I don't want to take out.
We don't want to stop the rat hole.
I think the Kindle thing is huge.
This is a rat hole for the rat hole.
I came to love my Kindle, but how much do you think they put into the whole battery life thing? Because I'm finding I love the long.
Speaking of battery.
Well, hey, I got a lot of problems. But I love the long battery life of my iPad. I love the crazy long battery life of my Kindle.
Right.
How much trade-off do you think you can afford to make in battery life to bring in something like H.264 video? I mean, I don't know what the most power.
Well, you get that battery life because that thing has an e-ink screen. It doesn't do anything.
You see what I'm saying? Like if you have a pad.
As soon as you're playing video, you're kind of screwed. Actually, this is germane because one of the things people said about the TouchPad is the reason it's so sluggish is because it didn't have the optimizations that Apple made for the iPad.
It is so optimized. I mean, every other tablet, one of the big differences between the iPad and the Zoom and everything else is the battery life on almost all of them is
and the responsiveness.
I think the RIM playbook is kind of the only other one where the battery life seems to be pretty good.
Right.
But yeah, Apple, I mean, it designed its own chip. It puts way more thought in that experience, and it pays off.
There's the advantage. For instance, if you know you're not going to be doing Flash, you can make a simpler chip that is more efficient.
Does that question make sense, though? Because do other people value battery life as much as I do? And even if we take it as read, they don't want to spend that much on an iPad. If they pick up the Kindle with the Facebook in the store and the whatnot, are they going to expect 13 to 20 Glaven? Are they going to expect 13 to 20 hours of battery life? They pop in One Life to Live, and suddenly they go down to like 2%. Is that going to happen on a pad like that?
Well, even the iPad, the battery life drops really quickly once you start watching video. You watch a 2-hour movie on it, and it's at 100, and you'll be down to about 55% on the battery when you're done with the movie.
Impressive.
That is still pretty impressive, and if Amazon wants to sell movies through that, they're going to have to do probably at least that good.
I think it's intriguing. Do you remember, like in the 90s, they started putting out all those things like, this is great, you buy your grandma this thing, and it's like got a phone and email, and it's all you'll ever need. It seems like along the lines of like the success HP seems to have had with these all-in-one devices in the past, it just seems like that's been the wet dream for a lot of these companies, is to come up with the mom-and-pop thing that you can truck around. I think Harry's probably right. A lot of people are not going to want to go out and spend
That's the iPad.
Well, but
It happened.
but if I hear what Harry's saying, he's saying there are always going to be people who think $500 is too costly.
Right.
Which I think is a little bit of a stretch. I'm seeing more and more iPhones. I'm seeing more.
Yeah, but we're in the Lotus land. We're not in mainstream
Right.
America.
They say BlackBerry now has become like the kind of like go around, get around for most regular people. That's not the upscale enterprise market.
The BlackBerry.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
See that?
We are going to take a little break and check in with Tom Merritt. He's in the TNT newsroom. TNT, of course, our daily news show. Every weekday, Monday through Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, Pacific, 5:30 p.m. Eastern at live.twit.tv. Tom, what's ahead for this week?
And thanks, Leo. Here's a look at some of the stories we'll be tracking on Tech News Today in the week ahead. Tuesday, August 30th, Jake Davis goes back to court. He's the guy they think might be the hacker topiary. Samsung has moved their Monday announcement to Tuesday at New York City. That's where we're expecting to hear about the American versions of the Samsung Galaxy S2. Dreamforce, the Salesforce conference, starts on the Moscone Center in San Francisco. Wednesday, August 31st, the T-Mobile BlackBerry Bold 9900 becomes available. Thursday, September 1st is a big day. You can get a Darth Vader personal Lego spaceship for $400. Early adopters of the Nintendo 3DS can download 10 NES Virtual Console games. The Sony S1 tablet goes up for pre-order in the UK. Netflix changes their rates for existing customers, so if you're a subscriber of both streaming and DVDs, your rates are going to go up. And HTC holds a meetup in London that they announced on Facebook. Could be new phones, maybe new tablets. Friday, September 2nd begins IFA in Berlin. That's the Tech and Gadget Conference. And DragonCon kicks off in Atlanta. That's the Dress Up as a Stormtrooper conference. All that and more will be on Tech News Today this week. Back to you, Leo.
Thank you, Tom. We will be doing live coverage of Dreamforce Wednesday and Thursday. We have live streams of the keynotes at Dreamforce for a little bit on Wednesday, and then for a couple of hours Thursday between 9 and 11 a.m. Pacific time at live.twit.tv. And Tom will be going to DragonCon. He does every year. Do you go too, Eileen?
I'm not going this
You're not
year.
going to go?
I'm too
Tom, we'll
tired.
be doing TNT from DragonCon, though, next week, right?
They're going to record it on Saturday, and it's going to run on Monday.
Oh, excellent. All right. So if you want to see Stormtroopers, tune in TNT on Monday.
Leo, are you coming down to Anaheim for the Build conference, the Microsoft Build
That's an
conference?
exciting conference. That's coming up in a couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to be there all week. Try the fish.
I think we are because, Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, the hosts of our Windows Weekly show, are hosting the Blogger Bash, the Build Blogger Bash, buildbloggerbash.com.
Oh, I need to get an invite to that.
I can get you in. I know some people.
I'll be there. Okay.
Yeah, well, you should be there, actually. And
I will, yeah.
They're
I need an
doing
invite,
that.
too.
Are you going to go?
Yeah, I'll be at Build.
And Travis, the Loudermilks, Travis and his brother of the hosts of the Windows Phone Dev podcast are going to be there as well. And I think, Ryan, that's his brother's name, I think we are going to do a little live streaming from the Build Blogger Bash. But I wasn't going to go to Build itself. I was just going to go to the Blogger Bash. Build will be where we'll hear more about Windows 8. This is where we'll first hear the details, the real details of Windows 8.
Yeah, I think they're going to release a beta. I bet you anything they release a beta there.
A public beta, you think?
Could be. Or it'll be a developer's beta that they say, it'll get leaked.
Wow. Do you think it'll be they're that far along? That's cool.
I think they're further along than they're letting on right now.
Interesting. What do you expect to be the key feature of Windows 8?
I think the tablet stuff has to be, and I think that's what everyone's looking at. And I love the Metro UI, and I think it has a lot of potential, and we'll see what happens when it's translated over to the tablet. I'm a little concerned about the idea of essentially having two interfaces and swapping between them, and the confusion that might lead to, but we'll see how they handle it.
What about you, Harry? What are you looking forward to? You covered Windows for years.
Yeah, I mean, well, the one thing they've shown us so far is this dual UI, where you can have a rather iPad-like UI or classic Windows. I think it's possible, though, that that doesn't really give us that good an idea of what's important. If you looked at Windows 7, when they first demoed that, they also showed touch stuff in Windows 7 first, and so people thought that would be really important in Windows 7, and it turned out not to be a big deal.
Not to be, yeah.
So I'm sure at Build we will get some sort of beta, and we'll get all the details, and it'll be a little bit clearer.
They're clearly influenced by Apple. This App Store that they're going to put in there is going to be, I think, a big part of it. Microsoft's wanted to do this kind of subscription software model for years and never really could do it, and Apple does it, and then now Microsoft can.
there have been a whole bunch of Windows app stores over and over again over like the last 10 to 15
Oh yeah,
years.
Vista had one. There was one in Vista that was they touted a lot, and it just didn't go anywhere.
feels
Remember,
like
you could go there and buy your antivirus software on Vista. You know,
it feels very much like the tablet thing, where for 10 years Microsoft pushed tablets, and it's got to kill Bill Gates. And Apple comes along and goes, "Hey, how about this tablet?" And it's like all over. And now the same thing with app stores.
I hate to make it hard to buy antivirus software. That should be really easy.
should be automatic.
Yes.
Should be automatic.
Just a button.
All right, we're going to wrap it up, but I am so glad. This was so much fun. Merlin, man, thank you for being here.
I'm sorry I came, but I'm really glad that you have me.
You're sorry you came?
Well, I always mess it up, but it's nice to be here. And
you have the worst self-esteem issues. I wish you would just...
Ugh. No, it's really nice.
My self-esteem issues suck so bad.
It's a humble brag. Is that what that's called? Thank you for having me.
You can catch Merlin at 5by5.tv, his Back to Work show. You are doing every week now with Dan Benjamin, and I'm really thrilled at the latest edition. I'm Not Working in an Abattoir.
With guest host
Jonathan Colton. Is that the name of his new album?
Artificial Heart. It is really, really good.
That's great.
I don't mean to plug this, but I will plug Jonathan Colton because he's a really good human being, and his new record, produced by John Flansburgh of They Might Be Giants, is terrific.
I someday hope to get They Might Be Giants performing in here, as we did on the Screensavers stage several times. It'd be really fun to have them. We've got a little place right there that they could play their theremin.
I know he's a fan.
Be fun. Please give my regards to Joko. Have we been working on Joko for Triangulation? We're trying to get him on Triangulation. He and Hodgman are the regulars on our holiday special. And by the way, we still have 2 giant bottles of Jägermeister in the fridge. If you would like to give it to Joko as our gift. Actually, it was Paul and Storm that really started that one. Ooh. Harry McCracken, technologizer.com. So great that you could come up. It was very nice to meet you in person after all this time.
Nice to see you in person.
Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. And, of course, Dwight Silverman. Next time you're in town, please come by, Dwight. We'd love having you.
I will. By the way, it's cooled off now. It's only 1:04.
And it's like 6 at night, right?
Yeah,
7.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's almost 7 o'clock.
Stay cool and keep your wife out of the kitchen, okay?
All right.
All right. Hey, thanks, everybody, for joining us. Don't forget, we do this show every Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 2200 UTC at live.twit.tv. You can watch live. Our new website is about to go live. It's been in beta. We've been working hard on it with the folks at ImageX Media in Vancouver. And I think by the time this show goes out across the podcast airwaves, twit.tv will look just a little bit different. We would love to get your feedback. Let us know what you think of it. Let us know what we can do to make it better. We're glad we could finally get that improved. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Another Twit is in the can.
This is amazing.
Doing the Twit. All right. Doing the Twit, baby. Doing the Twit. All right. What were you saying, Harry?
I was just saying I went on a tour of the Computer History Museum, which was led by Steve Wozniak.
Wow.
Which is
That's pretty cool.
It's kind of like touring the Holy Land with Moses. And
yeah.
We kept seeing all these important machines dating back to the 60s, and he would tell stories about when he used that machine. Oh, no, also, he walked by a machine without stopping, and that machine was the Apple II, which was the only one he didn't plug.
That's how unassuming he is,
Yes,
you know?
totally. Yeah, Robert Scoble had to get him to stop and pose with the Apple II.
It's amazing. He's just so great. He's really an amazing fella.
He is a nerd.
Well, that's what I like about him.
That's the biggest compliment for me.
He's unchanged.
Yeah, and like it's funny that I think he enjoys how much people love what he's been part of, and I think that comes through in a way where, and I don't want to bust a gut about Jobs, but that's one of the things I find so inspiring about Steve Jobs is like how much would you, I mean, as much as a character as Steve could be, to be around somebody with as much who cares as much about nerdy stuff as Woz, but then somebody who cares so much about making it good.
Right.
Steve, like how much would you love to work for somebody like that, you know?
Steve's commitment to making it good, though, comes at a cost, because it basically...
like burning bridges kind of cost?
Well, he's so laser focused that he doesn't have a lot of social graces, you know.
Wozniak?
No, Jobs.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I think that was.
Stories.
Oh well, you know, I have a few of my own, but I mean that's.
Just don't sit on his table at the end.
But he really, and I'm not saying that in any negative way. I mean, that's sometimes how you have to be if you want to get something done in life. he is very focused on his vision, and I think that's
Remember
really.
when the Don meets with Salazzo, and he says, "I had this meeting with you because I heard that you're a serious man." You know, I think Steve Jobs. I don't mean to make a value. I think he's a serious man, and I think he brooks no nonsense.
No,
and I
that's
think
exactly
that
right.
is.
Well, you've heard Alex Lindsay's story about coming to a sitting. I don't think Alex was there. I think he heard this secondhand. Sitting at a conference table with Jobs, and I guess it's a presentation. They do the presentations of what we're going to talk about, the keynote or something. And somebody says, "Well, I hope you had a nice weekend." And Jobs says, "Can we get down to business? Can we get down to waste a little less time and get down to serious business here?" It's just very focused. I mean, I think that's true. I think that's true. No small talk, exactly right. I think actually Woz kind of alluded to that a little bit. That there was not a lot of small. Elevate the tone. Thank you. That was the line. He said, "Can we elevate the tone a little bit?" Enough about this chit chat about the weekend. All right, I think we're done. Yes.